I'm Valdis, and I'm here with the latest project I was working on in Valheim. So this started out as a very ambitious project, and we wanting to recreate the biggest Viking Ring Fortress in Denmark, Agasborg. It was built around the year 980, and it was among other ring fortresses being built around that time, like in Fyrkat and Trelleborg and Borring. Anyway, I wanted to recreate a real size model or a replica of this ring fortress in Valheim. But that was a bit too ambitious because Akersborg is 240 meters across from one side to the other side on the inside of the ramp, and there was 48 longhouses within this rampart. And no matter how I tried to work it out in Valheim, I just could not secure a large enough terrain that was flat for me to build the entire thing. So it only ended up with 12 longhouses. That was just about as big as I could manage to terraform an area. Now, these longhouses, we have actually specifics on how big they were and somewhat what shape they had. Because while there was nothing left of the building themselves, archaeologists could find holes in the ground from the support beams. I had actually opportunity of reading actual measurements of how big these longhouses were. Like there were 32.5 meters on the long side and then 8.5 meters on the short side? Broad side? I'm not sure which one you would prefer. And then these houses would be split into 3 sections, with the middle section being the biggest one on around 19.5 meters. Now in Valheim, I probably would be able to figure out a way to make it half a meter. But to make it a bit easier for myself, I scaled it from 32 meters 0.5 to just 32 meters. And the same with 8 meters instead of 8.5. And on the inside, instead of 19.5 meters, I went with 20 meters. And since there's nothing else left but those holes from the support beams, everything else I built is pure imagination based on some knowledge of what Viking houses typically look like. Like the middle section being a long row of beds on each side, a walking path, and then there being a fire in the middle. That is something that is somewhat consensus about the longhouses typically being built like that. From what I understand. I'm not a historian, I'm not a specialist in Viking Age, but that is what I've gathered so far. And then I was just trying to figure out how to make this look as real as possible and as logical as possible, which is kind of a challenge because I started out making these longhouses and putting in a bed along the row as close as I could, and then ended up with only 14 beds being lined up. And I was like, well, that's not gonna be nearly enough, because according to records, historians theorized that there had been around 5,000 people working, defending these ring fortresses. 5,000 strong men. And that means each longhouse would have to house at least 100 men. 7 beds on each side of a row in a longhouse ain't gonna cut it. So I put it up as bunks, and then I got to 28 beds, which still is not quite close enough to 100. So at a later time I figured out, well, I could actually line up 2 beside each other, so I doubled that number, resulting in 56 beds now being in each house, which is not quite enough. But on the other hand, maybe there were just lying very snugly with each other, or one half just worked in the night while the rest slept, and vice versa. Maybe they did these kind of shifts. I don't know. And then of course there was these empty spaces between, both in the corners of these long houses within this rampart, and then in the middle of these long houses. Now, I read some talking about, well, that was just a courtyard where they gathered and were together, and I could maybe imagine they would have then a cooking tent, big ass tent, or a house like I built here, which is just has the purpose of allowing people to gather and need to maybe talk also. Who knows? And beyond that, that is just pure imagination. Like, I don't know how they kept their weapons, and I just put the shield by their beds in later versions, because that is something I think I read somewhere they used to have it, or at least they would have the shield by them on their ship, and most would also have a little chest with personal things. And so I've been trying different ways of putting that in there, allowing them to have a personal chest and maybe their shield by their bed. I'm not sure where else these shields would be when they're sleeping. And then there was also this the situation with bathing. I'm not sure how they did that. If they really, I don't think they had this. I don't think they had bubble baths in the middle of the courtyards. I don't think that is it. That is just to be there for fun. And well, Vikings were very hygienic in comparison with the rest of Europe at this time and later, because the tradition was that at least once a week they would wash, which was not the case in medieval Europe in general, where some people would maybe not bathe for a whole year or more. But maybe they had sweat houses? I don't know. Maybe they washed up in the fjord. It's also possible. I don't think that would be very nice, but on the other hand, they are there to guard and protect and fight. So maybe hygienics not that important. I don't know. Anyway, it was very fun trying to build this. I'm very disappointed that I wasn't able to do the full scale like this. I wanted to do a full scale like this little model I've made here. This little model. I would have loved to be able to make it a full scale, but unfortunately, as of right now, I have not been able to discover any way of modifying territory or maps. I did manage one place to find a big ass area that was very flat, but that was in the plains, and I don't feel up to be building creatively surrounded by mosquitoes and loxes and yeah, no, just no. That is not gonna happen. That is a very hostile territory to just be frolicking around. Nope, not doing that. Hope you enjoyed this, and please write in the comments if you have a tip for me to secure a big terrain in Valheim, because then I might make a new attempt at this. Or otherwise, just hit me with some ideas about some creative building, because I think it's very fun to do that. But until then, thank you for watching, and have a lovely day. Bless.